Hey, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Tremor, and we are going to continue with the Programming 101 series today. And we are going to talk about the for loop. Before we start talking about the for loop specifically, we have to cover loops in general. So I'm going to put myself in the bottom right corner again. I wrote some notes again, so we can go through them as we progress through the episode. And now what about loops? A loop is pretty much a code structure which allows you to run code multiple times. It's mainly there to avoid code redundancy, so you don't have to copy paste code all the time. Imagine you have a integer variable called I, and you want to print the value of I like 10 times, and on each print you want to increment it once. It's a very like made up example, but it's a good one to show like how this avoids code redundancy. So if we wanted to do this, we would have to increment, or we would have to print I. Let's say value of I equals, and then we print the value. And a new line as well. And then we want to increment I once, and then print it again. And now we want to do this until I reaches the value 10. So that means we would have to copy this part. What am I doing? Ten times. And if we run this, well, it's not 10 yet, but you see where I'm, like what I'm talking about. I guess the value is 6 now. So we would have to copy it 4 more times. And now it should be 10. And to avoid this, we can use a for loop. Now, the basic syntax for a for loop is the following. And it's pretty much the same in every programming language. Like the syntax might be a bit different sometimes, but you will have a for loop or a count or index-based loop in pretty much every programming language. So the syntax is the following. You have the word for, now parentheses and the body again. And in the parentheses, you have 3 parts. You have to define a variable. Let's just call this int, and we remove this int here. And we also remove all of those. And we copy into the body of the loop. So now we have that I defined here, declared and defined. We give I the value 0. That's the first part of the control block of the loop. Now we have to define the condition that will end the loop. So we say I is less than 10. And now it's the increment or decrement part, because you can also decrement. So let's just say we increment I by 1 on every loop. So that's plus I. And that's it. So if we run this now, we should see 10 prints, but we will not see I reaching the value 10 because we started at 0 and we say that the loop should run as long as I is smaller than 10. And yeah, 9 is the last time that I is smaller than 10, but we can also change this here and say I is less or equal than 10. And now we will see a 10 in the console. Yeah, there we go. You can also just say that we should, that we start at 1 here, and then the 0 will get lost. And let's just play around a bit with the loop. So we can also like decrement I, but now we have to like obviously start at 10 and say loop as long as I is, for example, larger than 0 or greater than 0. And you can see it's in the opposite direction now. So we start with 10 and go down to 1. So that's pretty much it already for the for loop, but I brought a small example just to expand this a bit. And the example is that we want to add up all the numbers from 1 to 10 and then print like the new value on each iteration. So let's just keep this in here and let's introduce a variable called sum and initialize that with 0. And now we just say sum plus equals I. And now we print the value of sum, and we just say sum equals and then sum. And just to do that for the first time as well, we will use the debugger here and go through this step by step. So keep the console here. So we are here now. Sum is 0. Oh no, let's turn this around. Well, it would do the same, but let's start from 0 and increment I and then say I is smaller than, if we want to go from 1 to 10, then we have to start at 1 and we have to go I less or equals than 10. Okay, so let's run this again. And now we are in the debugger. We see there is no print yet. So let's jump in this. Actually, something else. Let's print I as well. So we see that as well. I equals value of I. Okay, but now for real. So let's just go through this step by step. We see that I has the value of 1 now, and sum should be 1 as well. So, and now we can see like what the program is doing. Like we reach the bottom curly brackets, and it jumps back up. It increments I by 1, and then it checks, is I still smaller or equal than 10, which it is, it's 1 now. So we go back in. Now we see I equals 2 and sum should be 3. And I'm just going to go through this a bit quicker so we see this a bit faster. So I is 4 now, meaning sum is 10, and let's go until we reach the 9. Okay, so sum is 45 now. And now it should be the last like iteration. I equals 10, sum is 55, which is correct. And now it checks again, is I still, like I is still 10, like now it's incremented though, and it checks, is it still less or equal than 10? No, it's not, so it will jump out. And there we go. Now the program ends. And we got the print here, we can check that. So 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 3 is 6, plus 4 is 10, plus 5 is 15, plus 6 is 21, plus 7 is 28, but plus 8 is 36, plus 9 is 45, and plus 10 is 55. So the algorithm works, and yeah, this shows you what you can do with a loop. I mean, obviously this can be a lot more like complex, and you can also like nest them. So we could introduce another loop here. Let's say J. You usually name these like indices or counter variables I and J and K. You can adhere to that or not. That's to your own liking. And let's just say we let the inner loop run to from 0 to from 1 to 5, and we increment here as well. And now we can print, for example, We print I here. We remove the sum example, and we print j in here. And now we should see a print that says I equals 1. But not yet. We have to go into the loop first. We see I equals 1. And now j equals 1. And now we see 5 times j. And now we see I equals 2. And 5 times j again. And so on. I think we reached the end of the episode. Thanks for watching. And if you like the content, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. And in the next episode, we will talk about the while loop. And until then, I wish you a nice time. Have a nice day and see you next time. Bye bye.